The next thing that I believe to be most misunderstood and the most common misconception is tilt. Tilt in the swing. I think a lot of people think when you talk tilt that you're teaching kids to lean back or dip the back shoulder, like I was told so much growing up. If you watch any of the greatest hitters on the planet, or anyone who's had any success in hitting, they drop the back shoulder. Like I think this would be dropping the back shoulder, right? But you're thinking that I'm teaching them to do this, right? No, that isn't it. What you've got to understand is tilt. Rearward tilt to get our bat up to speed as quick as possible, as deep as possible, and as instant as possible. Actually, you want to be instant. So when you make your decision to swing, or you are fooled on a pitch, you can hold that coil, which we're going to talk about next, and be instant, direct, quick, and early. Early is the game. So let's talk about tilt a little bit. So for me, I need kids to understand tilt. And this is one of the hardest things to teach, which is why I think people just don't teach it, because either they don't know how or they don't understand it. So here I am to tell you, to help you understand it, so the kids can understand it. All the kids that we teach the game to. So you see a lot of kids just rotating. And the next thing that we're going to talk about is rear-leggedness and how to swing from one leg, which really helps with tilt. We're not going to talk about that yet, but that's next. So what you see a lot is 2 feet in the ground, and you see a lot of rotating. So you see a lot of turning of the upper body, keeping a flat shoulder plane. You know, I'm sure you've heard the old adage of, you know, left shoulder, right chin, shoulder to shoulder. I mean, I'm sorry, none of the greatest hitters on the planet do that. I'm sorry, they just, no one hits like this. Nobody that's any good anyway. I get it, you've got to teach certain things to younger kids, but when it comes to elite athletes or kids that you're trying to get to the next level, we've got to start teaching them about tilt, okay? And when it comes to tilt, they really have to understand the hand pivot that we talked about in part 1. Because if you're trying to tilt, but you're dropping your hands and doing all that bad stuff, it's not going to work. So we've got to have this tight hand pivot. A lot of people would call this a connected turn. You know, whatever you want to call it, this move needs to be mastered first. I don't care if you didn't hit a ball for a month and you just stood there and did this and understood what this means and not doing this. And one of the things I like to do is get kids to understand this move happens all the time. This is the move that we do when we swing. The thing that changes is posture. So again, tilting, posture, however you want to talk about it, your posture is very important when it comes to the tilt. So of course, people would say, well, if you're just teaching kids to tilt, how are you going to have them hit the high pitch? My kids don't struggle with the high pitch, I'm sorry. The high pitch is actually the easiest one because you don't have to tilt a lot. So if it's low, of course. Am I just going to stay up here and throw my arms at it? A lot of people teach that. Throw your hands at it, right? So if you just pitch them low, they're going ground ball all day long. We've got to learn how to lift this ball. And we don't lift this ball by golf swinging, and we don't lift this ball by throwing our arms down at it. We actually have this turn right here, but now we just add posture and tilt. And the posture and tilt has to be understood where this knob of the ball, I like to describe it as this knob, if it were to continue, or I actually have a flashlight on the end of the knob on one of my training bats, and they have to learn this move. Again, we're back to the kind of neck slot move. If we can work from here a lot, we can really understand how the body connects and how to deliver the barrel from a good spot. Obviously, when we're in game, in the next segment, we're going to talk about getting one-legged, getting loaded up like most people call it. I like to call it stretched up, just because, I don't know, when kids think load up, they're thinking of a lot of extra stuff instead of just kind of gradually stretching up. So when we get to this point from the next lot, this first move that we do has to deliver this flashlight, this laser beam, this extension of the bat to the ball. Because if we have our hand pivot correct, which is why I did that in the first segment, the barrel is just going to follow wherever the knob is pointing, which is why the high pitch is actually easier to get to, because there's less body adjustment for the high pitches, if you know the top of your zone. So now when it comes to this, everyone says you can't hit the high pitch. So we take this PVC pipe and we do this move for the high pitch, middle pitch, and low pitch. And if you notice, I'm holding this a little bit shorter, so if you wanted to practice this, this will be in our drill segment later on. But if this were to go longer, I would literally be hitting the ball with this. So I'm slashing up through the ball, not down through the ball like we talked about last segment, up through the ball, hand pivot, which brings us to the ball and brings us up through contact. So that's tilt. Tilt is literally just your posture and how you hit your posture based off of the pitch. And this is why launch quickness is the game. Because you don't know where that pitcher's pitching the ball. Especially when you get to 2 strikes, you have to be adjustable. You can't be out there hunting a pitch. It's 2 strikes, it's protect. So I've got to be able to launch high and away, low and in, middle out. I've got to be able to launch to any pitch. I'm in there to fight to stay alive. Also, maybe our pitch that we like is middle in. I personally like middle in. But when I face guys that are throwing gas and they're painting me middle away because they know I like it middle in, I can't sit there with the bat on my shoulder all day and wait until 2 strikes and then fight the away pitch. I've got to adjust my approach, and I've got to be able to launch to the low and away pitch with tilt. What they think I'm teaching versus what I'm actually teaching.